The mighty Yukon. I was
yeah.
wondering if you might call it that.
Well, I don't know. Like, I actually asked the insiders the other day, like, you know, what's a good title? Like, and there were. It was really funny because most of them had your name in it.
No,
Yeah,
I was like, I hope they don't.
Yeah, most of them had your name in it. Yeah,
Because we were joking around about it last night.
yeah. It was like the Long Road Homes or something.
I know, somebody said that one. Somebody named their golf team Holmes and One today.
Oh, really? That's good stuff. So, I don't know. I got to put some real thought into that, you know.
I know you're going to do amazing
yeah.
with whatever it is.
Okay, Jesse, let's start with, like you were involved with a little controversy before the race in the move to Fairbanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Like, you were vocal about your opinion. So let's start there. Why was it important for you? What was your thinking when you said what you said? And
Well, my thinking was that, you know, for one thing, like I love going through the burn. Like that's part of the race. 30 miles, no snow, glare ice. It's kind of challenging, but for a guy like me, it's not that challenging. I would like compare it to like playing a video game. Because like I live the lifestyle. I live on rough trails. I train on rough stuff, you know. I love going through the burn. It's like, you know, I got a good sled that steers good, but like when you're talking about 80 miles with no snow, I've seen what that kind of conditions do to the dogs in the Cusco 300. One time, I had a 32-minute lead over Pete Kaiser, 180 miles in the Cusco, and I just turned around and went back and Aaron Burmeister scratched, Brent Sass scratched. Her dogs were looking for snow to dip. They were chipping their teeth, like their noses were getting torn up. And it's just not a good, you know, place to take care of dogs. But everybody kept saying, oh, the dogs are just fine. It's us, you know. But that's not true. If we're hurt too, we can't take care of the dogs. And I just wanted to see what's best for everybody. I want to see what's best for the rookies. I want to see as many people make it to the Burled Arch as possible. So my opinion that was, you know, it wasn't safe for the dogs or the people.
I asked that question to start because the other thing that I heard was, well, I didn't train for flat ground.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't either.
I didn't train for flat ground. I trained in the hills, and I trained in breaking trail and, you know, tussocks, and I trained for everything. But, you know, a good dog team's a good dog team everywhere, you know, and you just have to be a good strategist and approach it in the correct manner, you know, and I really think that's my race in a nutshell, is that I put together a good strategy, trusted my dog team. I never got caught up in like thinking, oh, this is going to be this or that, you know. I didn't let it, I got excited about it no matter what it was going to be.
You leave Fairbanks, it's warm,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, and you lived on the Yukon, you know. Everybody thought it was going to be the easier, softer way, and I doubt very much you thought that because you've seen every condition there is out there. So your mindset is what as you leave Tanana?
I heard a lot of people talking in their interviews about conservative, but, and oh, my competitors they're going to think it's easy, and not because I felt like some of those comments were directed towards me because everybody expected me to go out there and guns a-blazing, and, you know, people know me for having a fast team, but I don't think anybody really knows me or how much I've evolved in this game over the last few years. My consistency speaks for that, you know, 4 years in a row in the top 5. And I planned on being conservative, doing 4-hour rest. At the Tolovana, I was going to do a 4-hour rest, and I looked around me at the way the race flow was going and the things that people were doing that I just expected that they would be smarter than that. And I said, I'm going to do 5-hour rest all the way to Caltech. The thought just hit me, and I had the discipline to do it, and it worked a lot of magic in my team. So I literally, from Tolovana, did 5-hour rest all the way to Caltech, 32 hours of rest.
Was it 50 miles, 5 hours rest, 50, what?
It varied. My next run out of there was 63 miles, and I did it in 6.5 hours. That's with getting my gear and going through Manly, which only took me 3 minutes. So that was a phenomenal run that showed me this team is like completely capable of being the best team out here.
The run to Ruby, what was that like for you? It's the first real long run of the.
You know, the next run to Tanana was the rough one with me with the
That's right.
sandstorm.
Yeah, tell me
Yeah.
about the sand.
The sandstorm kind of messed me all up, you know. And there's just goes to show, you know, like I'm one of the toughest guys out there. I train out in the bush. I try to train for everything, and here I am going out of control down the Tanana River, blinded by sand. Can't. Part of the thing about having a powerful team is sometimes you can't stop them dogs. And I was on glare ice, sand. There was nothing I could put my brakes in or my snow hook in. I ended up under my sled, dragging over logs and like stobs and thinking this might be it for me. And somehow I ended up with one hand on the sled, rodeoing down the river. And the dogs were having no part of stopping. Couldn't see anything. There was no markers. I think they got knocked over by the other mushers that had went ahead. And then I ended up in like 4 feet of snow off the side of the river, up in a bunch of willows, not able to hook a team down to turn a 16-dog team around. And I lost a bunch of booties, and I felt like after that I had some sorenesses in the dogs and like maintenance stuff that you just don't want to do 200 miles into a race. So I had to go to Tanana to completely regroup. And I almost got off my schedule there and just stayed there. It was hard because I have a lot of friends there I haven't seen in a long time. Special place to me. A lot of my roots and mushing are there. But I got a full vet check on the dogs. I was worried about some, you know, after that. I rebooted the whole team, lost another 30 minutes there. So here I've lost an hour and 15 to an hour and a half minutes of time already, 200 miles in. But I went on down, Folgers Camp, camped there 5 hours. I carried enough stuff. I packed everything in there, and I camped twice on that run, which I think that was like something I think only one other person did. And that was a brilliance from my friend Tom Huntington that I didn't know about that at first when he told me that as an idea. But man, that really played good. Kept me out of the heat of the day.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. When you came into Tanana and when you left Tanana, like, that's your home. Those are your peeps.
Yeah.
And you were, like, you felt it important to show that to them. We were there
absolutely.
and I saw it. Like,
yeah, no. And I love it in Tanana, man. Those are dog people. Those are my people, river people, you know. And I was like, man, I bet they don't think I'm going to win. And that kind of bummed me out because I was a little frazzled from the sandstorm and I didn't look like I was going to win at that point. And I kind of was just like, I had to like put that out of my head and be like, just keep trucking and just keep doing. And, you know, there's going to be ups and downs for everybody. This is your down point. You didn't expect it this early. And then you go out of there and it was like 5 miles of like the slowest going you've ever seen. So you start thinking this whole 120 miles is going to be like this. There's numerous runs where the first 5 or 10 miles were so bad and you're thinking, oh my God, it's going to be like this the whole way. Luckily it wasn't. I popped up and got off of it. So yeah, I was kind of pretty worried at that point.
you go all the way to Caltech to take your 24, and out of the front pack contenders, you were the one that went the furthest.
Yep.
Part of the original plan, I'm supposing, and is it a reflection of the fact that your team has toughed out this first 450 miles of the race and they're in good condition?
I'm one of those guys that, like, I don't send out multiple 24s. Now, if I was to plan and be a planning man for this route, which I wasn't able to be because I had already sent my food out for the other route, and I only sent out 124 to Ophir, which landed in Caltech. But if I was to have my way and make my plan, I would absolutely go to Caltech. Maybe further in hindsight. I think I had, it in the team to go to Grayling. But we'll never know and find out about that. Caltech was the place for me, and I knew that, like, being conservative was part of going further, the 5-hour rest, not running in the heat of the day, get to Caltech. I'm going to be behind when they all go through, but I'm going to have that slingshot effect, and I got up there being conservatively. It tends to be when people say they're going to go to McGrath or to Katna or what was Galena and Nolato, they're going to push a little harder to get there. Like I seen Paige cut her rest out of Ruby going into there, and I didn't realize why at first, but then I realized she was going to her 24. And so these guys are making a push there. I'm doing the opposite. I'm just letting my dog team get in a groove, doing a lot of rest, going further down the trail, planning on my race being later on. The old saying, rest early, finish strong.
The run from Caltag to Eagle Island, how much pre-trail information did you have? Did you know that you were about to go on a really tough stretch? And was it as tough as you've been on?
I'll tell you here, like right off, like not the things that most people want to talk about or say. I kind of knew way ahead of what it was going to be like. I knew before Galena, and I had contemplations of scratching. With, I was working on the team, trying to bring them back together from all that stuff in the sandstorm. Things were not perfect. My best lead dog, Polar, had a sore paw and was sad. I've never seen this dog sad. So I was going through a lot of emotions before Galena. And I really had to pull it together and say, we got to just keep going. And for one thing, I can't afford to go home. I've got to make some money, whether that means coming in 20th place or 10th place or 3rd place or maybe still 1st place. I was like, I'm going to carry Polar for all the way to Caltag for my 24, give him 24 hours rest, keep working on him. So I pulled myself out of that because I knew what was ahead. I mean, you just kind of know the nature of the river, but I heard there was a bunch of overflow down there, and that, I know how I've put plenty of trails in through overflow, and you go through, you got to bust the snow down, and the water comes up, and then it freezes, and there ain't no snow on it, and it's rough. And then it's the southern route. There's always going to be blown in trail, blown snow. So yeah, I had some real low points,
Dig down on the story with Polar, because you told me
Yeah,
Polar hurt a paw, right?
Yeah. His paw was swollen and sore, and I just never seen him sad ever before. And seeing that just broke my heart, and it kind of broke my spirit, And I didn't know what to do, so I just loaded him up in my trailer and committed that I would carry him all the way to my 24. And I needed this dog so much, Like, I have some great lead dogs in that team, but there ain't nothing like this dog out there. I don't think anybody on the trail has a dog this good. This dog is just, he's never been dropped from a race. He's just a dominant personality. He eats everything in sight. He stays happy all the time. So that was a real alarming thing, I ended up carrying him for almost 250 miles, I think. Because I wasn't going to run him out of Caltag, out of the 24. By leaving the 24 in Caltag, I think I had 48 hours rest on him. And I was like, I'm not going to run him through this rough ice. So I carried him all the way down to my camp at Blackburn when I started hitting some good snow again. And that's when I put him in, and he was raring to go, man. He was like, it's time for you guys to pay. He got up front, and he just dominated that team for the rest of the way.
Eagle Island to Grayling. I think when you arrive in Grayling, it's already starting to snow,
Yeah.
right? And you're picking up all these prizes too, which was really cool. Right?
Yeah.
But we have just tremendous footage of you going through that snow. I don't know if it was before Shaktoolik or in between Anvik, but it was down there at the bottom end of the loop. Take us back there, because now you're seeing it all.
Right.
Warmth, soggy trail, iced overflow, and now there's 4 to 5 inches of fresh snow falling on the trail. Yeah,
this race is shaping up just like I thought it would shape up, in like many manners. The warm weather, it's going to be hard on the dogs. It's going to be hard on the people that push. Now my team's coming back together big time after the 24, and now it's time to execute the strategy I set out. Whenever I set out to win every first way prize other than the dinner. I knew that being into Galena in the lead was too early, and that the dinner's just a distraction anyways, So I planned on making my move and getting up into the lead by Grayling, and that worked out perfectly. But once I get to Grayling, we've went through all this rough ice, snow starting to pour down, head over all the way. I skipped Grayling. I got to do the award, you know. Like, one thing I did good was, like, I knew that all these places that had these awards I was going to be going through, and that I couldn't change my schedule, but what I could do is be very relaxed. You view it as rest for the dogs, not time I'm giving away to the competition, because these people are out there to support me and are so happy to have me there. I want to be like my best for them, give them all my time, get my stuff that I need to go through, and, you know, just stay relaxed. And I think I did a real good job of that, and that the team really appreciates that in me. And yeah, and then it started snowing. The loop out of Shaktoolik, it was fun to get off the river, but man, it was deep, shoulder deep, trail breaking, tough going. We still did that loop in like 3 hours and 45 minutes for 27 miles of tough going. So I knew we were trucking right along, and then finally got to stop in a checkpoint back in Grayling. They had the award, and instead of having to blow through there, that was pretty cool. That was the, what was the award?
Well, you got the
Spirit of Alaska
Spirit
award.
of Alaska award. It was hat and mitts.
Hat
I think
and
I
mitts,
forget which
yeah.
one was. One was on the way in. One was on the way back.
I got
through,
so
right?
much stuff
I know.
from all these prizes. It's hard to keep track. It's awesome.
So, you know your team. You know how tough it is, and you're probably not surprised by what this team has done on the river. But I think by the time you do that loop, and you've gone through what you've gone through, now I think it's obvious to us on the outside looking in, maybe to the rest of the world, that not only do you have a team that can win, but this team is tough, because it's now faced what appeared to be every condition on that river. Just oh, yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
And so you must, like,
I mean,
your confidence is growing, I'm assuming.
It's hard to say that my confidence ever grew out there, because I just knew how important it was to focus on each mile, and I knew how much further there was to go and how many hiccups there could be along the way. So instead of letting my confidence grow, I did what I've been doing this whole way up to the race, the whole race. I let my hunger grow. Everybody tells me you got to be confident, and I say, no, confidence, you get complacent when you get confident. I said, nothing can mess with hunger. I stayed hungry. Confidence wasn't going to do nothing for me out there. Looking in front of me, staying hungry, looking for the next thing that was trying to trip me up is what I was staying focused on. And yeah, it was awesome to see how the team did through all those conditions, but it didn't surprise me. That's how we train, you know, we train for it. I passed Pete and Richie. They were on their snow machine as I went out of Grayling, and it was still kind of warm, and I did a 5.5 hour rest there. I put the coats on the dogs knowing it was kind of warm, but it was going to be windy. And man, we are walking right off 4.5 miles an hour. Snows. I didn't have no idea it was going to be that bad. I should have figured it out from the loop I just went on, but I was thinking, oh, it's going to be pretty good. I'll run all the way to Eagle Island. I was like, this is crazy. I was like, we were going to literally walk these dogs to Eagle Island. And Pete and Richie kind of were just like, and I heard that they said to the guy that they were with, dang, we picked a good year to not race. And I said to them, at least I trained for this. And then I started thinking, dang, be careful what you wish for. Because I spent a lot of time wishing for tough. I was like, not only is it going to be tough, I wish it to be tough. And at that moment, I was really questioning what I asked for. And this is where, you know, like, not perfect planning came in. I didn't plan on stopping on that run. I planned on going straight through to Eagle Island. And as I was calculating about 4 hours into that run, I was like, this is going to take me 12 hours. If I run these dogs 12 hours through this, my race is done. I had a bunch of she-fish with me, very oily fish, really good fish that I feed, and quite a few snacks for the run, but I didn't have any kibble. I didn't have a meal to make for the dogs. I didn't have straw. I was like, dang, I think I screwed this whole thing up, you know? And so I'm going back and forth. What do? Do I stop you know, they got their good dog coats on. Do I stop and camp them in the snow and just feed them all the she-fish and call that good? And here comes Laura. Laura's my buddy. I don't think I would have asked anybody else for help, but like, he's my buddy. I know he's going to Grayling. We swapped trail reports about what's ahead and what behind us, and I asked him if he had any food he could help me out with, and he had a big bag of kibble and gave me a bag of beef sticks, and I snacked the dogs with the beef sticks so I could save all the she-fish. I got by where I'd camped before near Blackburn, and there was a big pile of straw, pulled the dogs on that, boiled up some water, put it on that she-fish, made a real nice broth out of that, added the kibble, had a good meal. Yeah, it didn't have all my supplements, and it wasn't like my standard diet, but that right there saved my race. So thank you, Laura. Next time you come out and train at my place, don't bring straw, don't bring food or anything. I got you.
Another river guy.
Yeah, totally.
Another river guy. That's the way it works on the river, though.
That's the way it works on the river, you know.
Yeah.
If he needed my help, I would have given it to him, you know. And we talked about it before this race. We were like, this ain't going to be nothing for guys like us because we're river rats. We love the river.
You get to Eagle Island, and you went through a little bit, I think, right, in camp?
Yep.
So you get to Eagle Island, like you're feeling when you get there, Jesse, like you're out in the front, right? You're in position.
Once I got in front, it seemed like I was just out in front until my 8 at Caltech. Yeah, I felt like at that point, you know, I didn't want to stop in Eagle Island as much as I would like the amenities and like to, you know, have the time to go through my drop bags and dry out some stuff in the tent. I knew that it was important to keep moving until it got warm. That's exactly what I did every day. I didn't have a time set. I just went until the coolness was gone off the ground. I wouldn't measure the coolness up here above the sled. I would stick my hand down by where the dogs were, and if I didn't feel that coolness anymore, I was pulling over right then and there. So I made it, and I was starting to feel pretty confident, you know, about the gamble of taking my 8 up in Caltech.
Yeah,
you know?
so
because I've never even took my 8 past Ruby or anything, you know, or Shaktoolik.
Yeah, and it made all the sense in the world because you know
I never even went to Galena for my 8.
Yeah, like
now I'm going 800 miles in for my 8-hour break, and I think a lot of people thought I was going to get overtaken there, and that it was a mistake.
But if you can make it there,
and
keep your speed up.
That was where I was seeing. My speed was still there every time I hit a good stretch. Coming into Caltech, you know, after all those 800 miles, my team jumped up when they hit a good trail, 9.5, 9.6, 9.8. Whoa, 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 don't go 10. And so I knew I made it there with my speed. And then I got that 8 hour. It was a good 8 hours. Got 2 big meals into the dogs. They're eating voraciously. Perfect digestion. Perfect health in the team. And I mean, I think we've all heard that there's 2 places you got to get to if you want to race and win the Iditarod. Nikolai, you got to get there with a healthy team, and Caltech. Well, I just got to Caltech, and it's more like getting to Shaktoolik. And they're healthy. They're eating. They have their speed. I'm going to get leapfrogged, and some people are going to go in front of me, but that's not a concern of mine now. Like I said, I just kind of always focused on my next step. What's going to trip me up is what I kept trying to ask myself.
It was interesting because you're in Caltech, and then Matt and Paige show up. And these are 2 mushers that you're connected to. You have this long relationship with Matt. You knew him way back in the day when you guys were younger, working on a trap line for a winter, and you're neighbors with Paige. Right? So I'm wondering what all that dynamic is like. Like, are you still wanting to beat them, or are these people that you have like affection for?
Oh, no, I have no affection for them in the race. You know, like, it's a race, and if I falter, they're not going to have any affection for me. It's not like a negative thing, like, but I just know that, you know, I have to be so focused if I'm going to win this race, because they both want to win this race too, and they both have amazing dog teams. I tell you one thing, after the race, I watched both those teams come in, and I thought, you really did something, Jesse. You did something that was really hard, because those 2 dog teams looked incredible too, you know. I was like, you did an incredible thing because you never counted them out and counted yourself in.
They were incredible teams, just. And you leave Caltech, and really now it's obvious to the world this race is on. You're off the Yukon, you're off this thing that could have led to the demise of all teams.
Yep.
But you three have made it, and you now there's 3 teams. It's obvious that could win this race.
Yeah, there's
and
3 teams that can win this race, and they all look good, and I'm going to make sure that I'm the one that does, because this might never present itself again. I kept telling myself that. There is no tomorrow. There is no next year right now. There is only this race. And you have put yourself in position. And you've done all the things right almost that you were in your control. Sandstorm, out of my control. You know, I was there to, you know, push it on the coast, stay out of the checkpoints. I knew I had to stay out of the checkpoints. What I did was basically looked at the way they ran the river, looked at the way I ran the river, figured out how I had to corner them to where they couldn't do what they do best. And that means I had to look days down the line and days back with a tired mind. And I employed a strategy that didn't allow them to catch up to me by staying out of the checkpoints, freezing my butt off with wet clothes, you know, like I just stuck to it. And I never had the strength and ability to do that the last couple of years. When Dallas did what he did and left Unalakleet and I stayed there, I knew I should go through there. I was smart enough to know that I should, but I didn't have the physical or mental strength that it took to do that. Going into this race, I knew that I had to work on the #1 weak link myself. And all those things were never a problem for me, going through those checkpoints and going and camping out. You know, I actually really enjoyed it. I found that the most enjoyable part of the race, just being out there with my dogs, focused, getting a good hour's sleep every time. I had the body weight on me to do it, the energy to do it.
You get to Unalakleet. I know they're close. I don't know exactly. I think they've stopped. I think Matt stopped prior. Maybe Paige comes in too. You go through. You get to Shaktoolik, and like, are you know right where they're at? Like, do you know what's going on?
I lost my inReach, you know, and I have one of the best people helping me with a great mind and a great passion for the race and the dogs. On the other end of that inReach, it fell off my sled over by Anvik. So I had no idea what's going on, and it, not gonna lie, it kind of drives you crazy. You're like, because part of my, like, you know, plan is to, like, race to the race flow, add the rest if I can. Well, I never knew if I could add the rest, so I went all the way up into the hills to the foothills cabin before Shaktoolik, and thinking that's a real nice place to make it. I'll make it to Koyuk from here. It's a long, tough run, but it was a good move. Keep the lead, and I gambled on giving them 5-hour rest there. I thought, I haven't given a 5 in a while. I should give a 5, but I'm not going to know if they go by. Because I went and slept in the cabin for 2.5 hours, and I came out there with my best Inspector Holmes magnifying glass on the trail. Is there any sign of a runner track through here? I couldn't tell, you know. So I said, well, whatever. Go boot up the dogs. I'm booting up the dogs. There goes a nice-looking dog team, that haul. Damn, that dog team looked good. Well, the heck with them. Don't think about them. Think about yours. Clicked my watch. Got bootied up. 11 minutes. Pulled the hook. Started seeing his light a little ways after the hills. We got down on the ice. I got down there. We were on parallel trails. And I got to see how awesome his team looked and how good they were moving while we were side by side. And we kind of had a pretty cool conversation about crazy, you know, 15 years ago in Eagle, and here we are leading the Iditarod, you know. And, yeah, and then my team just kind of, I didn't have to tell them to. They just shifted it in gear and started rolling 10, 10-2, 10-5. He was rolling a good 8-9, and they just put the pressure on themselves. They did it themselves. The trail was good enough for them to do it. They kind of do that naturally when the trail's that good. It was like icy. And I made pretty big distance on him by Shaktoolik. I think I made 11 minutes on him and about a minute a mile into there. So I got loaded up, and I was hoping that he would come in there so I could know what the heck he was going to do, because I didn't know if he was going to stay at Shaktoolik. You know, he's kind of off what his normal schedule seemed to me. So I was really curious about what he was going to do. Or was he going to Koyuk? Was he going to the cabin? There's 3 things he could do, but I got loaded up pretty quick and got out of there. So I was like, well, I'll just look for his light. Do I see his light? And then finally I saw his light pop out. So I'm like, all right, he's going to Koyuk, I figured. And never did I think that he was going to the cabin at that point. And I got out both ski poles. It was a stiff headwind. I put Arctic up in lead with Polar, the 2 huskiest dogs in my team that just love the cold. And it was about a 50 below wind chill, straight headwind, like hitting a wall. And I just double ski poled the whole way across that thing. I never skied poled so hard in my life. I just was like, I got to gain every minute that I can. It is a race between me and Matt again. And I was like, and he wants to win just as bad as I want to win. I was like, I got to get to Koyuk as far ahead of him as I can so I get more rest. And then I'm going to have to skip Elam and do the same long run he's planning, was all I had in my head. And I mean, I can do that run. I don't want to. I like to keep the runs regulated, and like, and I think like, yeah, I could still do my thing and win, but like, I still remember what happened last year. Something can happen. So I was like fully prepared to like get as much rest as I could at Elam, and like trying to figure out whether I was going to, because I think he expects that I need that rest to run fast. I don't really need, I could rest 2 hours and still run fast. So I was like, maybe I'll, you know, get that extra rest and I'll put the pressure on him and leave after 2 hours after he gets here, you know, just to throw him off. And so I was thinking that was the way the race was going to go. And I got there and found out that he was camped at the shelter cabin. And then it became apparent that I have the opportunity to just keep banking rest. So I did 5.5 hours there, went over to Elam, got a 4-hour rest in Elam. Because now when I'm in a checkpoint, all of a sudden I have the ability to know what's going on. Look at the tracker, hear from people what's going on. So, yeah. I mean, Dallas and Tyrell were there, and they were like, why would you do anything crazy? And I mean, I really respect these guys' opinions, you know, and their driving style. And still, I wanted to do something crazy. I was so nervous thinking that it was, I never thought it was concrete, you know. Matt went through there before I did, about 30 minutes. And he went, and it was obvious he was going to go camp somewhere. And I passed him, and we gave each other a high five. And he's like, I'll see you in White Mountain. I was like, the heck you will. I was like, I ain't buying this for 1 minute. I was like, this guy might pull them up off the straw in like 10 minutes and 15 minutes and think I'm going to stop in Elam and then jump over me again. And so I didn't really believe that. But then I got to Elam and figured I was still thinking about blowing Elam. Like the whole way there, I'd be like, I got to go blow through Elam. I was like, no, the right thing's to rest the dogs. Rest the dogs. Don't be stupid. Go through Elam. It was like, it's just a constant battle, like every mile. And then when I got there, I did the right thing and said I want to park and camp the dogs. And I figured I'd stay 2 hours. But then, again, I had the ability to see the tracker, and that he hadn't gotten going yet. And so I ended up being able to get 4 hours and still leave with an hour lead from there.
And I would imagine these are decisions, Jesse, that you need years of experience to make, right? Like,
if I could have made decisions like this 4 years ago, I could have won this race a couple times. Like, that's what makes me so happy about this win. I already know I have one of the best dog teams in the world. They show that to me because I don't just race the Iditarod. I don't put all my eggs in this basket. I'm there to win the Copper Basin. I've won 3, you know, Koyuk 440s. I've broke multiple records on mid-distance races. I've raced the Open North American sprint races. I've raced the whole sprint racing circuit with my dogs. I know the dogs and their versatility. But if I can't make the right decisions, then, you know, I can't be a guy with somebody with even a lesser dog team can beat me every time. That's how the sport goes, you know. So to like have that good of a dog team and like keep letting them down is like wears on me every year, you know? Keep letting myself down when I have an opportunity to this dream. And so, yeah, I'm really happy that I won this with my strategy. You know, I won this for them. I protected them. I did the right things by them to give them the strength and the power to win this thing strongly. And that feels really good. Because, I mean, I've thrown away a couple opportunities. I know that.
And I mean, we're literally hours after you won the Iditarod.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, does it feel as good as you thought it would feel?
I have a contentment that I didn't think I would have. Yeah. It feels amazing. I just see all the joy that all these people here have for me, and it just makes me so happy to share that joy with everyone. And I feel full of joy. I feel still hungry to keep going and keep, you know, next 440, but like, man, I'm content. And I know that everything that I put into this was completely worth it. You know, I've put my whole life into this dream and this goal for the last 8 years, you know. And I always thought that I could win it, but I always convinced myself that I probably never will, to keep myself hungry. And to win it on the year that it was the most important to me, like carrying the memory of my mentors, the ones that are alive and the ones that have passed away, that were looking down on me, like, that's big to me. And I wish they could be here, and I wish I could go talk about the race with them. But it's going to be further down the line before I see them again, and we can share those stories. But I know that I made them proud, and I know that what they seen in me was real. And if I could have just seen it in myself a little bit sooner. But everything happens for a reason, you know, like that's why I said I was really happy to get 3rd place last year instead of 2nd place, because it kept me so darn hungry. If I had gotten 2nd place last year, I might have been like, yeah, man, I'm good at this, you know. All year I just kept telling myself, you ain't got nothing unless you go out there and get it. And that kept me driving, kept me working hard. It's everything I thought it was going to be and more. And it ain't even sank in yet. That's the thing.
And Jesse, you, like so few people that I've been around in this race over all these years, you have a following and a fan base that loves you. And I'm wondering if you're feeling that.
I'm feeling the love so much. Here in Nome, you know, in like remote Alaska, yeah, I have a fan base because I'm on a TV show of a lot of people that don't know me, but then I have this huge fan base in the state of Alaska of people that do know me, and like that's what really means something to me. I mean, I love having like everybody that's supporting me. It makes me feel so good that I can inspire so many, you know, and give joy to so many, and that they can feel my joy. But like the state of Alaska, the Alaskan people, these people in these villages that I travel through every year, supporting me and being happy for me, that means the world to me. And, you know, I just like let loose and I told my story. I told my struggles because I want to be able to show every person that has ever struggled and had hard times that, you know, you can turn that around. Don't give up. Keep going forward. Come talk to me. You get love from me just like all these people gave love to me and helped me turn my life around. Because, if you know, I don't even know the guy that I was 25 years ago. You know, I've had so many good people in my life and so many fortunate things happen that like have turned my life around and built this trajectory in my life, you know, and I just want to like share that and bottle that up and give it to everybody.
Joy. When you say
Pure
that,
joy.
I think about, we have shots of you going across the ice to Koyuk, and there's a sunrise, and there's a little ground, right? And your dogs are, pop, 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 pop. Heads are down, feet are like pistons going through that. I'm wondering, for the outside world looking in, are we seeing sled dogs at their very best at that moment? Like, are we seeing their genetics on display and why they were built and born and put on this planet at that moment?
Man, these dogs are just living their best life out there. And they love it being out in that landscape. They look at those sunsets, they look at those northern lights, they look at those moons, they look at me and they say, do you see that? And like, I sleep in the straw with them, and they rest their head on my shoulder, and they enjoy like being out there just as much as I do. And that's another thing about this race. I made sure to enjoy every single moment out there. Not think about winning. Think about living this whole thing to the fullest. Try to not obsess about the win. That's out of my control. What's in my control is enjoying this trip more than I've ever enjoyed any other. And those sunsets and seeing those dogs thrive in their natural environment and just do so well out there and enjoy camping out and watching the northern lights. I mean, these dogs literally watch the moon and the northern lights and the sunrise with a big smile on their face. And that just makes it all worth it right there.
The lunar eclipse, did you see it?
I did. It was amazing. Can you believe it? It's just the last 3 nights on the trail were like, and mornings were the most mind-blowing beauty I've ever seen. It was like not even being on Earth. And it was just magical. And just the endearment that I felt towards my team in those moments. And like, I just cried so much out there. And I enjoyed those moments so much. I was up in the Blueberry Hills, and I was thinking about my mentors, and I was speaking out loud to them during this most beautiful sunset, moon, and it was glistening off the iced up hills, and it was a really powerful night. There was like those last 3 nights, sunrises and sunsets, and those times where I felt the closest to God and the dogs. Those are, man, I'll never forget this ever, any of it. The whole race was just, even the hardest times where I was struggling mentally, I would think about Jerry Riley loading all of his mandatory gear on his back, snowshoes, axe. He had it all on his back and his sled empty and running along with his team. And I was like, all this I'm going through ain't nothing. That give me strength, you know. Thinking about how the pioneers of this sport paved the way for us, you know. Like everybody just came to an empty bed of spruce boughs whenever they were chasing Jerry at 50 below, where he had raked the coals of the fire underneath it, spruce boughs, and slept on it, and when they cooled down, got up and went. And I just, like, that gave me like a lot of inspiration and strength out there.
You are kind of a throwback character, and you've always been connected to those that have gone by. Why is that important to you, Jessie?
That's just kind of how I ended up in the sport, is being around some of the grittiest, toughest, old school characters, you know. Like the first guy I went out on the trap line with over in the Yukon territories, Corey Gamond, a 7-time Yukon Quest runner and like boat builder, cabin builder, hunter, trapper, you know, just as tough as they come, you know. And he told me I needed to meet Lester Earhart when I wanted to get started in dogs. And then I went to Tanana and met Lester and helped with fish wheels. And then I met Rocky Riley, and, you know, we put a fish wheel in up out of Manly, and I stayed there to fish camp for a whole month. And Joey Reddington, you know, and Joey really believed in me and said to my friend Tom that I was going to be a champion dog musher someday, he thought, you know. When these guys all seen this diamond in the rough, I couldn't see it in myself, but all these people kept seeing it, and all these amazing, tough, old school characters kept falling into my path, you know. Jerry and Rick, Lance, you know. Lance told me 4 or 5 years ago when we were hanging out, he says, I have no doubt that you're going to win the Iditarod, Jesse. He believed in a lot of us young guys. He said a lot of other guys' names too, like Travis. He's like, Nick, you know, I think you guys are all going to win the Iditarod, but I think you'll win the Iditarod for sure. He says, but you got to stop racing like somebody you're not. He's like, you got to start racing like Jessie Holmes again. He says, you got the fastest team out there. He says, you need to get out there out front and own that race. And at that moment, I was thinking, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep being conservative. And then later on, I realized how right he was, you know. wasn't really running my own race. I wasn't being myself. And I took a lot of that to heart, you know. So I've got to have all these amazing characters in my life believing in me, inspiring me. Bill Cotter. And these people made their own sleds. They made their own dog harnesses. They broke their own trail with snowshoes in front of their team. They've seen this race from, you know, a 20-day finish to a 9-day finish. And it's just, you know, that's what inspires me is, you know, all these great relationships that I've been able to have and, you know, proving them people right that believed in me.
Jessie Holmes, Iditarod champion. How's that sound?
It sounds good. I like it, and I'm so thankful and grateful, and it's a magical experience so far. And just knowing that my name's going to be cemented in history with all those great legends, and that I got to win the longest sled dog race in the world, the toughest one. This was no easy race. There's only 9 of us here so far. There was only 3 of us that were like contenders for the front, and we should all, everybody who finishes this race should be incredibly proud of themselves, and everybody that finishes this race is going to be in the top 20, and they're going to get a paycheck, and boy, do they deserve it. And I'm going to try to be out there for every one of them. I'm so happy for everyone that makes it here. And I feel compassion for the ones that didn't. Don't give up. Keep going. Keep coming back.
Thanks, Jessie.
You're welcome.